Welcome to the Nevis Newscast for Thursday, April 18th, 2019. I'm Fredicia Liebert. 23 persons completed a Train the Trainer Community Resiliency model on Wednesday, April 17th. The three-day training was based on current science to help individuals and communities bounce back after difficult life experiences. The aim of the model is to help persons to regulate their nervous systems through simple concepts about the science and the biology behind trauma and stress, and to assist them in learning how to use the skills to track their nervous system, ground, and find a resource which brings gladness and the assurance that the body can heal itself. In his remarks at the closing ceremony, Brian Dyer, Director of Nevis Disaster Management Department, shared his plans for the persons who have received the training.
From the onset, I wanted to have persons here on the island who can continue the great work that the visiting team has done. We have a lot of work here on the island that needs to be addressed, and with our local capacity, I'm certain that we can develop a cadre of trainers that can go forth and get the job done. So I think over the last 2.5 days you have done well. For some of you who want to become professional at the art, you'll be mentored by the Melinda and trainer team. So wherever the training is available, then some of you will be invited to join the team and present, right, to build your confidence up. Right? I'm still looking for an association of Nevis for psychosocial, and I also am looking at expanding the subcommittees in the disaster management structure so we can have a specific subcommittee that deals with trauma.
The program was coordinated by the Nevis Disaster Management Department and facilitated by Loma Linda University's School of Behavioral Health Trauma team in partnership with the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. The participatory and practical training model enabled participants to implement the skills in their daily lives in order to maintain a state of wellness. The topics included skills of tracking, resourcing and grounding, resilient zone and stock in high or low zone, and human reactions to traumatic growth.
Having sat through and observed, performances and demos and interaction, we are convinced that this group you're taking this very seriously, and we must commend the administration here on the island for putting systems in place to ensure follow-up. Okay, these skills, the more you, the more you practice them, the more proficient you become, and so you're able to disseminate across a wide cross-section. And listening to Mr. Dyer in terms of what his plans are, I think that's great. And if there is anything else we can do, the team from Lone Leader and also we are willing to assist you getting your organization set up and so on stuff. We have big launching, that'll be great. So we want to kind of challenge you to make sure that you do your best to keep improving in this regard.
The participants were representatives of the Department of Social Services, the Department of Education, the Mental Health Unit, the Nevis branch of the Red Cross Society, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, the Nevis Disaster Management Department, and the private sector. Earth Day is an annual observance on April 22nd, a day on which events worldwide are held to demonstrate support for environmental protection. This year's theme for Earth Day is Protect Our Species. The Nevis Historical and Conservation Society is joining the observance by sharing with members of the public ways they can celebrate Earth Day 2019.
You can plant a tree on your yard. You can organize a cleanup event. We are very happy to support Charleston Secondary School. A group has organized a cleanup event on Saturday, and we are very, very happy that young people could creatively come up with their own activity to keep the island clean. You can walk instead of driving your car on Earth Day. You can carpool. You don't have to use 5 cars in one single household. That day you can go in one car, and you can go on a hike or register with the hike being organized by NHCS. You can use your bike or you can actually express your concern about the environment you are member of parliament. You can campaign against plastic pollution, and you can advocate for policies that protect the threatened species.
Executive Director of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, Pauline Gunjiri. Meantime, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society's main event in observance of Earth Day is a lecture to which the public is being invited.
The United Nations Development Programme Global Environmental Facility and the St. Kitts and Nevis government are implementing a program in St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Christopher Trust and Nevis Historical and Conservation Society were given a grant. The society was given $10,000 to mobilize the youth to get more involved in environment issues, particularly as it relates to protected areas. We are supposed to educate them, and this lecture is part of those activities.
Isabel Byron is the chairperson of the Biodiversity and Conservation Committee of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society.
We will be having this lecture by a famous Caribbean naturalist, Mr. Kevin Lindsay, who hails from Antigua and Barbuda. He has been based in the United States for a long time. He was regional coordinator of what was called the Eastern Caribbean Biodiversity Program of the NGO Island Resources Foundation, which was based both in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands and the United States. And for 15 years, Mr. Lindsay was the coordinator of this program. He's an expert on Caribbean plant ecology and faunal species, particularly birds and bats, and he was a principal contributor to several key biodiversity planning documents which were prepared by the Foundation, including vegetation classification systems for Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis, and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
The lecture on the theme Protect Our Species, Threats to Biodiversity in Nevis is scheduled to commence at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 23rd at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall.
Mr. Lindsay is very familiar with Nevis. He's visited and done field studies on many occasions. He has contributed tremendously to our knowledge of what is our biodiversity. And he is very well placed, I think, to speak about the threats, the existing threats, and what we can do about them, what we can do actively to tackle some of these threats that we may not be fully aware of, but that he will be telling us about on Tuesday. And we really want, well, everyone is concerned by this because this is our environment, but particularly persons working in policy-making, decision-making, who can make things, bring about the change we need to save our species. But ordinary people, just who are people with backyard gardens, farmers, persons in the tourist industry, everyone is really concerned by this. So we are appealing to everyone who can to come out and listen and contribute their ideas, ask questions, make suggestions for what we can do as a community.
The public lecture is being sponsored by the United Nations Development Programme Global Environment Facility and the John Robinson Memorial Fund, which is coordinated by Bev Parry Robinson.
Keval Lindsay, I knew him 10 years ago, and he was here doing a project with David Robinson, my husband, on the Peak. He was doing a study of what does Nevis have. He knows more about the ecology of Nevis than anybody that I know alive. So the fact that we could get him here, back here, and he did a study, I think, last year. He came back
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So his knowledge is fairly fresh.
Meantime, ahead of the public lecture, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, NHCS, will host a field hike at 3 p.m. on Earth Day, Monday, April 22nd. According to Bev Parry Robinson, who is also a long-standing member of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, the educational activity will also be facilitated by Caribbean naturalist and environmental consultant Kevin Lindsay of Antigua.
As we walk, he'll hike, he'll talk about what he's seeing or what he's not seeing. And the last time he was here, he was quite worried about the monkeys. And up in the rainforest, they're attacking a lot of the bird eggs, which is why you might see a lot fewer birds around. But that's the beauty part. Nevis is a garden. It's a big, beautiful garden, and we need to preserve it. And if we are not careful and clean up our trash and clean up the things that are impacting, we're gonna look awful. And so this all coincides with Earth Day and communities pitching in, cleaning up their trash.
Registration for the hike is free. To register, contact the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society at 469-5786 or 661-4148. Still to come.
With that partnership, we will address crime, the fear of crime, and social issues that can elevate to crime.
The details after this break. Welcome back. A U.S. consular officer will hold appointments for U.S. citizens in St. Kitts and Nevis from May 6 to 9th, 2019. The consular office from the U.S. Embassy to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States will visit St. Kitts on Monday 6th, Wednesday 8th, and Thursday 9th May, and Nevis on Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. The consular officer will provide U.S. citizens services and accept applications for U.S. passports and consular reports of birth abroad. Of important note is that handwritten passport application forms are no longer accepted. All passport application forms must be filled online at www.travel.state.gov and then printed. All forms completed prior to the appointment, as well as originals and copies of all supporting documents, must be presented. Appointments will be held at the conference room of the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on Monday, May 6th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. and 1 to 4 p.m. Wednesday, May 8th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. and 1 to 2 p.m. and Thursday, May 9th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. and 1 to 4 p.m. Appointments will be held at the Alexander Hamilton Museum in Charlestown, Nevis on Tuesday, May 7th from 8:30 to noon and 1 to 3 p.m. Appointments must be made online to meet with the consular officer. The appointment calendar is now open on the website on your screen. Additional information on U.S. citizen services and links to application forms are available on the U.S. Department of State's website. Officers of the Nevis Division of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force worshipped at the Charlestown Wesleyan Holiness Church on Sunday, April 14th, 2019. Divisional Commander of the Nevis Division, Superintendent Lyndon David, mentioned a new initiative called Operation New Dawn, where members of the force are more involved in various communities.
Community policing is where we foster relationship with various sectors of the community, including other government departments and divisions. And what this does, we're basically dealing with a philosophy. Wherein that partnership, we will address crime, the fear of crime, and social issues that can elevate to crime.
Superintendent David also asked the members of the public for their continued support.
We are asking for your continued support, and we are saying to you that from time to time, you may have to interact with us in a way that may not be that comfortable to you, but remember, if we're not here, you will not be safe far as you are to be. But we believe and we know that once we put our trust in Jesus, that He will give us guidance.
Superintendent of Police Lyndon David. The following is a notice from the Public Works Department in the Nevis Island Administration. The Public Works Department will be transporting aggregates from Long Point Port to New River from Saturday 20th to Sunday 21st April 2019. For this activity, large dump trucks will be used to transport the materials during the period of 3 p.m. and 6 a.m. All are asked to exercise extreme caution while using the portion of the island's main road that falls within these areas and to adhere to the instruction of the traffic directors along the route. The Public Works Department regrets any inconvenience caused. That's it for this edition of the Nevis Newscast. On behalf of all of us here at the Department of Information, I'm Freddie Liebert. Thank you for viewing and have a great weekend.